everybody, and welcome back to the Dream Team Tonic podcast, episode 78. If you're a patron, thanks very much for your support. Thanks for listening. If you're listening on YouTube, could you give us a like, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment in there as well. Give us a follow on Twitter at Dream Team Tonic. If you're interested in joining the Patreon, it's patreon.com/Dream Team Tonic. I'm Tony. With me this week is James. You there, James?
I'm here, Tony.
And once a month, we're joined by former champion Fergi. You there, mate?
I am, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's good to have you on, mate. Straight in, Fergie, as we've not seen your team, I think, since the start of the season. How's it gone on this week, mate?
It's had a fairly decent week this week, actually. I think I scored 63. So, Ramsdale 0 and Saliba 2. So I used my last transfer last week. I took out Bowen, who was a bit of a failed punt for the Europa games.
Yeah.
He did get the goal in the first leg, but he just looks so off it, don't he? So I took... I've used my transfers. The way I've used it this year, as I kind of mentioned in the last one, pre-season, I'm very focused on team value this year, which I'm not normally, but I just think with the World Cup, it's going to be incredibly tough if you haven't got much budget to build a decent team. So I very much focused on taking out fallers and going on rises. So I used my last transfer, Bowen out for Saliba, which got me thinking 0.4 rise in total. But anyway, Ramsdale in goals. I've kept Robertson and Trent. So another part of my strategy is not to take out players who I know I'm going to want back. So obviously, I know a lot of people took those out and they will have been burnt. And thankfully, it'll be nice to get a couple of rises off those two now because they've been dropping like stones, haven't they? Saliba is my new addition. Looks really, really good. Really good value. And Sessegnon as well, actually, 2.3, I think he is now. And, he's kind of played out as we expected. He's either playing or he's not playing and coming on for a clean sheet. So the only way he's going to get minus points are probably if Spurs concede 2, which, looking at the fixtures, apart from Man City, they play September the 10th, and they also play Arsenal on the 1st of October. I can't really see a lot of games where I'd expect Spurs to, to concede more than one. So I'm pretty hopeful that he'll keep on going. And it's good that I've got Armron still. So he was the player I picked, just as my complete and utter enabler. So he obviously scored against Man City quite unexpectedly. He got a small rise as well. So I think he's 1.6. He might drop again this week now. They do play, is it Wolves? No, not Wolves. Liverpool away. So I'm not expecting much there midweek. But you never know. We scored against City, so you never know.
Yeah.
And I've got Kulusevski, who I brought in after game week 1, who hasn't done a lot. But again, I'm keeping him in. He won't be going anywhere because he's really good value. And Saka has probably been the most disappointing player in the team, to be honest, because he was 4 million. He's dropped to 3.8. Should hold this week. He may get something midweek against Fulham, but he's scrapping for a place in my team for September, I think, because he's not warranting 4 million, I don't think. And then up front, Salah, Jesus, and Haaland. Thankfully, got Haaland because he was always on the cards, wasn't it? Salah's obviously disappointed, but still, you think a haul is around the corner. So 63. I'm about 330k rank with this team, which is obviously not great, but I was about 500k last week, so I've had a bit of a rise. But I'm fairly happy with the setup of the team. I think that for me is the most important thing, is that the actual structure of the team. I think I've got the right price points in place. It's just a case of fiddling around now in September, to kind of optimize it. And I've already got, I think, 10 of the 11 are playing in Europe, so there's only Almiron not playing in Europe. I'll shift him on. There's loads of enablers, who are coming through in defence and midfield and attack, in all fairness. So lots of options. So overall, not an ideal start, right? 330k, but I think I'm set up okay with the September. I've got the price point, so reasonably happy as you can be at 330k, I suppose. So yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Go without Kane.
Yeah, well, he's coming back now, especially after the Champions League fixtures. I'm sure we'll talk about him in a bit. But Spurs group is immense, so got to decide what to do, and I'm sure I'm sure we'll talk about this loads, but I expect Kane to play the majority of games. I don't expect maybe Jesus and Saka to play the majority of games in Europa, so it could be a bit of a shifty around there. But I'm sure we'll talk about that in a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll jump onto my side. In goal, Ramsdale 0 points this week. Sessegnon another 5 points again, going off the bench just to sneak that clean sheet in there. He had a couple of chances to get a return up the top end of the pitch as well. So got some good positions. Unfortunately, he didn't get anything else. Robertson back with a 7-pointer. Mbumo 0 points. Kulusevski, I thought he was one of the best players on pitch. I think we touched on the ratings maybe a little bit after as well, but one of the best players on pitch, only got 2 points for his assist. Odegaard, who I brought in 13 points.
Oh, nice.
De Bruyne, another one I brought in at the expense of Trent, which, yeah, so the two subs I made, Trent to De Bruyne, Saka to Odegaard, didn't even wipe its own face really. I'd probably been better off staying, but De Bruyne, if he had got a return this week, he might have been going even higher, and he's 7.5 million. So it's easier to get back to Trent than it would have been to De Bruyne if he'd hauled this week. So I don't regret that. And then up top, we've got Haaland, 28 points. He were on the cards, a hat trick. It seems he could do it at any point. Kane, unfortunately, missing the penalty, scuppered his Starman hopes, and obviously he got the minus points for the missed penalty, and then a yellow card for the celebration of his second goal. Although I don't think he did much wrong with that, did he? Anyway. And Jesus, minus 1 point. Up top, 63 points for the week. One transfer remaining. Obviously, I didn't touch Zinchenko because I weren't too sure about how severe that injury was. I were hoping probably just leave that transfer. He might play midweek. If not, obviously I'll have more info on whether I move him on or not, or whether I try to upgrade Mbumo for the European games coming next month. Not too sure, but pretty much happy with it. Obviously, it's very light Liverpool. This team I went without Salah from the beginning. Seems like Salah's doing a bit of a Kane this month and not starting very well for the first month, but it's Salah. He's going to come good. He's not going to go without scoring points this season. So he is a threat. But yeah, there's my side. James, over to you, mate.
75 points this week, Tony. Well happy with that. All of my defence returned. I've been saying for the last few weeks, Liverpool and Spurs have got to start racking up the clean sheets soon. And so I kept the faith. Lloris got me 5, Trent got me 15, Robertson 7, Cresswell 5, Sessegnon 5. Not too sure about Cresswell going forward. In the 2 games prior to this, I think the 3 games prior to this, he picked up a yellow card, which I'm not happy about, but he is a cheap enabler. And now I think he's got a potential groin strain, so I'm not expecting him to start midweek.
Seen they signed Emerson from Chelsea as well, haven't they?
Yes, they have. So Cresswell, it looks like Cresswell will be playing left centre back on occasion. When all their when all their actual central defenders are fit, who knows? He might. Yeah, you're right. He might be a rotation issue. So I'll be keeping an eye on that one. Not a lot from the midfield. Dewsbury Hall -1, and Buemo, he could have scored. He should have had 2 goals in the last game.
Yeah.
He actually got hooked, I noticed, for Damsgaard. So I'm hoping he doesn't lose his place at some point, but we'll see. Honestly, he should have scored at least 2 goals when I was watching highlights. Kulusevski got me 2. He hasn't done a lot since that, like Fergie said, since that first haul of the season, but I think he's still a keeper. Hopefully get something from him midweek. Up front, Haaland 28, Kane 9, Salah blanked. I don't know how he blanked. Again, he should have had at least a brace. He didn't have his shooting boots on, but on another day he would have had a brace easily. It's not like Liverpool to get nine goals and no Salah involvements is
mental, isn't it? Absolutely mental.
Crazy.
You couldn't write that if you 9-0. He played 90 minutes as well, didn't he? He wasn't even like he was brought off at the 17, 90 minutes and nothing. Absolutely ridiculous. Because if you like, I was watching the goals they were coming through, but imagine you knew it was 9-0. Like, I would think as an absolute minimum 9-0 minimum, you would expect Salah to score 3 and have 1 or 2 assists.
Yeah.
Incredible. Nothing.
Yeah. I think I seen it on Twitter somewhere. I don't know how accurate it was. I think it was the chances of Liverpool scoring 9 goals and Mo Salah not being involved either with a goal or an assist was something like 2.5 million to 1.
I bet it was. That was the bet of the weekend, that was. Sadly.
Unbelievable. But again, I mean, that's Liverpool back. That, I mean, Bournemouth, are they the team to target now? Whenever you see someone going up against Bournemouth.
What do you think, James? Do you think, like, I know obviously Liverpool were superb, but do you think Liverpool would have done that to a few teams in the Premier League the way they played, or do you think just Bournemouth that bad that it probably exaggerated the score?
I think Bournemouth certainly played their part in it with not being very good.
Okay.
But they're not
going to beat Newcastle 9-0, are they?
No, I don't think they will because they're looking decent this year. They've got their tails up, looking good defensively. It's looking to me like Bournemouth are probably going to be the worst side in the league by some distance. So I don't think we would beat anyone else 9-0 if I'm totally honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
Still a good performance though.
Yeah, we'll take that.
Getting back on track.
We needed it.
Yeah, you did. Right, over to the questions. Dan Allen, at what point do we start jettisoning Liverpool players? A question for this week's pod, perhaps. I like how you dropped that one in, James.
I dropped that one in there because he's a Spurs fan and he DM'd me, and I think he was sort of taking the piss as well with that question. So, Dan,
was that after the United game? That one?
It wasn't long after. I put it in there because I mean, you can't be. I've been saying hold, don't ditch. I'd be bringing more Liverpool players in if I could afford them. So I just thought I'd leave that in there for Dan.
I mean, they're cheap at the minute, aren't they? Trent at 5.9 is going to be much cheaper this season.
Yeah. Van Dijk 5.3 and Robertson, is it 4.8?
Yeah.
Like crazy prices. I would, if you got transfers left, anyone, I'd be all over them. Yeah. Because as you say, they're going to end up 6.5, 7 million, aren't they?
Yeah, shaky start, from down in price. But yeah, the only way is up probably. Right, Mgoo has been on the Discord. Must-haves for September based on fixture ease and European games started with the shambles of the Tin Pot Cup, the European Conference League. Are the players still worth having a punt on? Which I'm just presuming he meant September and not October. And what do you reckon, James?
Well, I'm going to be concentrating on sides in the Champions League at this stage because we just don't know how much rotation there's going to be in the Europa League and the Conference League. I would expect in the conference there'll be crazy rotation, and it might depend, I suppose, on whether they the likes of Arteta and Ten Hag want to get the group done and dusted and then rest. But I think if they're playing poor opposition, they can afford to field the reserves. So I think Spurs have got probably the easiest European fixtures. I think Fergie mentioned that earlier. Although they do face City and Arsenal in September in the league. But certainly the European fixtures are looking very good for Spurs. So, and I imagine Kane will play most games, so I'm going to class him as essential for this month. What do you think, Fergie?
Yeah, he's my number one target. Kane, I think fixtures are good, and also Kane's the kind of player, as we know, he scores a lot against Man City and scores a lot against Arsenal. Well, Spurs score goals against both teams as well, don't they? So he's the kind of player, Kane. He's just like, how many times have you seen Kane 13 points next to his name? Because every time he scores in like a 1-0 win, he tends to get star man and things. And I just think that this month, I think I'm tempted to move away potentially from a few of maybe Arsenal, and as you say, jump on Champions League because they're going to play like.
Yeah.
And as you say, there's a lot of options. There's a lot of, if you think of like Nketiah at Arsenal, you would guess he is knocking on Arteta's door and he's saying, "I've just signed a massive new contract. I need minutes." I think he'll give him games. And whereas the Champions League teams can't afford to do that, really. Their superstars will play the Champions League. Haaland will play. Salah will play. Kane will play. So, yeah, I think Kane for me is my number one target, definitely.
Yeah. What I'm going to do with the Arsenal assets, obviously, you've still got Villa this midweek, then United at the weekend. I'm probably going to hold him for that United game and then see midweek what he does. I can probably see Nketiah definitely coming into the starting lineup, and then probably Smith Rowe. So that's going to be two of them forward, three rotated. Whether Martinelli or Jesus or Saka start a game, I might get lucky with one of them. Be interesting. Has he got enough in that back line to rotate that back line? Do you think? Obviously, got Tomiyasu and Tierney.
Yeah.
Tierney can never stay fit. But centre half, Gabriel, Saliba, have they got much more behind that?
Well, if they play the right back, they could put White at centre back, and I don't know. Is that Pablo Mari still? I don't know if he's still there. I'm not really sure, but
and they got hold.
I was just looking at the odds for the Arsenal game next week. They're playing FC Zurich, and Arsenal are kind of 1-3 on. So that's a pretty, this is the thing you don't want to miss out on the Jesus Hall either, do you? It's a really tough one. But I think the United game is harder now than we thought it was going to be a week ago. I think, if we were recording this time last week, well, not this time, 8:30, maybe an hour earlier, 7:30.
Yeah.
I think we'd have gone, Jesus, Arsenal are going to batter them 4 or 5-0. But I think the landscape has changed a little bit since. So not as thing of leaving him go to play United, get some minutes in that FC Zurich game. But mind you, we've seen it with him, man. When he comes off the bench and scores bloody 2 goals. But you can't have everyone, and this is why it's so good this month, isn't it? Whereas Kane will very, very likely play 70, 80 minutes minimum against Fulham and probably get 70, 80 midweek home to Marseille, who they're heavy favourites as well. So,
yeah, that's the beauty of having 10 sides, I suppose, is that you can do a bit of both.
Mix and match, can't
you? I think we know more after that midweek game about what everyone's going to do. Obviously, the Champions League, if you can get as many Champions League players in, especially Spurs, like you say, Kane is number one there. That's what I've got down. Kane's essential going forward into September. Harry Kane. Right, Darren Franks.
I think with Kulusevski, I think he's a nice pick as well for going into the month because he's cheap. He's a really good way into the Spurs attack. Takes up a midfield spot as well, and he's still reasonably cheap, I think, isn't he? So I think that if anyone's got maybe Saka to Kulusevski potentially could be quite a good move. I think Richarlison will get minutes, and other players will get minutes, but with Kulusevski on the pitch, he looks really, really good, and he's got he can haul any time. So I think that he's a really good one for the month as well.
Yeah, definitely looks really dangerous. You're unlucky to that score, weren't you?
It was.
Right, Darren Franks. Now that the Champions League starts in a fortnight, do you think the forward template of Haaland, Salah, and Kane is the best format? Is it time to ditch Jesus? Opinions on Fofana if he signs for Chelsea because he's only 2.9 million at present. Is he worth a punt? And finally, is Sterling worth transferring in now after his brace? Go on, Fergie, we'll let you.
Yeah, I think they're all really good points and all things I'm thinking of. So, in order to get Jesus up to Kane or Salah, for example, you need to find a couple of million, and we've got a couple of Chelsea defenders. I think staring us in the face. Fofana is going to be 2.9, and Cucurella is currently 3. I think he's going to retain his place. Retain his price? Sorry. So there's a couple of players there, obviously in the Champions League, decent fixtures in the league as well. And I really like Sterling. I thought I brought Sterling into my best team on the weekend as a bit of a punt because I thought he was so cheap. So yeah, I think they're all really good options. You can free up a bit of cash, but you're getting in brilliant players. If Fofana and Cucurella were entering now as Chelsea guarantee starters, which they probably are, they'd be 4.5 or 5 million, would they?
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I think they're both amazing options. I think they're the only two I would maybe take out a Liverpool defender for example, because I think they'll probably score reasonably similarly, but you obviously free up a couple of million.
Yeah, so definitely good options. James?
I think you've nailed it, really. I don't think I've got anything more to add there. I did make a note. Sterling's now dropped to 4.5 million. Obviously, he's going to go back up again in price on Thursday. So if you've got any transfers left, he could be a decent pick. But totally agree with what Fergie said. Really.
Have you got Sterling in any of your sides?
I haven't. No. I did have him in one of my sides, and I took him out last week. But that's the way it goes, isn't it?
Yeah, same here. But yeah, nice 2-goal haul. I think he'll play most games, won't he, as well, Sterling?
Yeah.
I don't think he's someone who's going to get rested. I think they're struggling up top, aren't they? We're out and out forward, really. So, and Fofana, we know he's a quality player. So if he does get that move sorted and gets himself fitting into that side, and Cucurella is top drawer. So he's going to score plenty of points this year. And prices are good, aren't they?
Just on Champions League as well, I think this is where people who start with maybe Alisson and Edison have maybe got, and Lloris, in all fairness, maybe got a bit of an advantage over those of us, including myself, who've got like Ramsdale, for example. I do wonder whether, again, they'll do like a full rotation. So I think I mentioned it a month ago around starting with that premium keeper. Obviously, you'd hope you get some clean sheets in August anyway, but it's basically a transfer. I think obviously we'll get to see whether Ramsdale plays on Thursday. If he doesn't play, I think that's a transfer guaranteed, because I think we'd be foolish not to jump on keepers playing for a top side who are playing twice every week. So
yeah, I agree. Right, DT Patrick is looking to upgrade 2 enablers, Gray and Strick. He's got 0.8 million in the bank, considering taking Cancelo out to Cucurella, Strick to Fofana, and he can afford Gray to Sterling as upgrades. 3 transfers used quickly. So is this a wise move, James?
To be fair, I can see why you would do all 3 of those moves, and I don't think there's any reason not to use 3 transfers if you're setting yourself up. You've got 5, that still leaves you 2. One to jump on an emerging player, and 1 for injuries. I don't see any reason not to do that myself.
Yeah, Fergie.
Yeah, I agree. I can't argue with that at all. I think if you look at the projected points for those 3 over the next month against the other 3, I think they look really good.
Definitely, Cancelo's had a very quiet start, so don't surprise me you wanted to cash in on him. and be using that cash to have them 3 Chelsea assets who were probably sure starters. Yeah, absolute no-brainer, and just save your other 2 for any mishaps during the month. Right, Flower Pot Man. How do you guys deal with the mental side of Dream Team? I've seen a few people over the past week or so really getting down and I suppose stressed out about the outcome of certain games. It doesn't bother me personally, but how do you feel with it or advise others to do to help them cope? Cheers, boys. Fergie.
What's the question, isn't it? Flipping heck.
Yeah.
Well, this is part of the reason I think why. Well, it's not part of the reason. I suppose it's by proxy really. But I play multiple formats with multiple teams, so even though I didn't have, I captained Kane in Sky, didn't have Kane in Dream Team, so it's like it kind of offsets a little bit, but it's really tough. It's so easy to say, and it is easy to say, but you just need to get yourself into a mental place before the deadline that you've made the best decisions for your team that you possibly can with all the information you know about, and you're not making rash moves like just for example, taking out Haaland before he's playing a home game, taking out Kane ahead of a good fixture run. I think they're the ones which hurt the most, is when you take out points that you knew you probably shouldn't have taken. So a kind of mentality I took a couple of years ago during the run into kind of winning it, which was obviously very, very stressful for me, was like a no regrets thing. And it was like not no regrets as in bugger it, go for it. It was no regrets as in, if I do this move and it backfires, how am I going to feel? And that for me put me really in a really good mental place, that even when I messed up on a couple of moves, it didn't. I still thought that they were the right moves, if that makes sense. Whereby the ones that, if I'm taking out Kane for Haaland, but Kane's home to Bournemouth on the weekend, but Haaland's got a nice fixture as well, how am I going to feel if Kane scores a hat-trick? I'm going to absolutely climb the walls.
Yeah.
I think that kind of helps you almost make the decision, is how you think you're going to feel. And I know that's the way I play. Like I used to get really, really stressed, but I don't anymore. Really, not to the point of that it disturbs my weekend, but I know I used to. I know a lot of people still do, but I think that mentality of how am I going to feel if the worst happens, and if you're able to handle it, then do it. If you're not, I wouldn't. And I think that's the thing for me, which really helped me, and the way I play now as well, definitely.
Yeah, sound advice. James, does it get you stressed out, mate?
Not really. No, not like I see some people get. I mean, there comes a point where the things you can't control everything, and you need to sort of remind yourself that you do the best preparation you can do, and there's always going to be something that happens that you can't account for. So there's really no point. I mean, I try and tell myself there's no point in getting stressed about it because it's happened. Let's concentrate on how I can do even better next week, and how I can, or if I've genuinely think I've made a mistake, try and analyze how I came to that conclusion, and what can I do to prevent myself from doing it again in future. And that way, hopefully you won't get so stressed about your dream team, because you'll be doing better and better. But I think there's if it really is stressing you out that much as well, perhaps taking a little break. Some people like myself, I'm on Twitter all day, looking at stats, making sure I see all the highlights of all the games. Maybe just take a little break from it, and that might be just a couple of hours for some people, and that is a break. But it might be just walk away for a day, and come back. It's not really that important, fantasy football.
I've got all notifications on my phone apart from the scores, but all notifications from all social media, WhatsApp, everything, constantly switched off because that's what was driving me to distraction a few years ago. And I've got them all switched off. So anyone who does message me, I don't respond immediately. I'm not being rude. I look at my phone when I want to look at my phone, not when my phone dictates to me I should look at it. And that was, I had a bit of a meltdown in work about 3 or 4 years ago where I was in a meeting and my phone was just buzzing in my pocket. It's just like, and I'm trying to like talk or whatever I was doing. And at that moment, I was just like, fuck this. And I just switched it off, and it was the best thing I ever did. I never turned it back on. And it's so I'm not being ignorant to everyone who I don't respond to. I just don't look at it because it takes my mind off everything else, everyday life, doesn't it?
Yeah. It can be stressful. Obviously, things going wrong one week. You've planned, like you say, you're taking all the information in. You think you've got your team set, and you're looking forward to a good weekend with plenty of points, and then it all goes peak tone. But as you say, James, you can only do so much, and the way I get over it nowadays, because I did used to get stressed with it as well, is there's always the next game day. We've literally come off the back. I've just took Trent out. I've not sweat about that transfer. I'm not bothered. I took Trent out, put De Bruyne in because I thought obviously the price rise. De Bruyne went up, Trent went down, so I got the money, and that was just the way I thought was the best way to play it this week. I'm not bothered about it because I know there's the next game days. Liverpool have got Newcastle. They could well concede. Trent could get a -1 again, and De Bruyne could haul. And then all of a sudden, it's all even Stevens again, and all that worrying and all that stress that I've done for 2 or 3 days is all worth nothing. It doesn't. There's no need. There's always another game day.
Football is so random. Look at Salah on the weekend. We touched on it, didn't we, earlier? 9-0, no Salah involvement. What the hell can you do about that? If you've got Salah in your team, you've done the right thing because he's playing up front on penalties, the best player in the league or potentially even the world, and they've won 9-0. You've done the right thing. And just because he hasn't you wouldn't be whipping him out, and stuff. And it's just one of those things. You just got to laugh, like literally laugh about that because what can you do?
There's nothing.
Crazy. I captained him in Sky and captained him in FPL, and he's not far off the only player in my team who didn't bloody score anything. But what can you do? You made the right decision.
Yeah,
you did. Whether you like it, pre deadline, you've picked a player for a team that scored 9 goals. You've made the right decision, and it just wasn't to be that day. But it's how you react in it, and how you react is not rage him out or whatever it is. Just think, well, he's gonna score points because he's best. He's the
On to the next one, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's basically you got to try and deal with it, but not being too harsh on yourself. You put your time in and you do things right. It can go right, it can go wrong. Like you say, it's a lot of luck involved, a lot of
definitely
so random. Right, Andy Boyner has been on. With none of the expected top 6 sides keeping a large percentage of clean sheets in the first 4 games, do you think block defences will not be profitable this season? If not, then I think maybe a 3 wing backs from separate teams at the back with 4 decent mids might be the way forward. What would your strategy be from a defence point of view after the first month's results, or do you think a block defence is still a good option? Fergi, block defence.
Yeah, I'm not that keen on blocks yet because I don't think we've seen enough from any one team to show that they're even worthy of it. City have looked vulnerable, Liverpool have looked vulnerable, Chelsea have looked vulnerable, Spurs have looked vulnerable. So there's no defense really who you think are going to do it. But I think I am going to reduce the cash I'm spending in my defense next month, but only because, as I mentioned earlier, I think we're getting potential 5 million defenders in for not far off half the price. So that for me means that you can, you're not like taking out a 5 or 6 million defender for, a normal 2.5 million defender would be some like Veltman or, Connor Cody, right? Whereby we're taking him out for 2 defenders who are going to play week in, week out for one of the tightest defenders in the league. Just seems a bit of a no-brainer for me. So, yeah, I think the opportunity is it. And you've also got Saliba and Sessegnon. You could have a back four spending 2.3 million, 3 million, 2.9 and 3 million and have, more or less, that's 3 Champions League defenders and a Europa one and Lloris in goals. What is he now? 3.5 maybe, or whatever he is. Gold dust.
Yeah.
I can't remember having a defender like that for a long time. I don't know if you guys can think of one, but thinking of last year and the year before, they were all ridiculously expensive, weren't they? We were getting Matip at was Matip 4 million. We thought a bit of a bargain.
Yeah.
We're getting the equivalent to that 4 times over at the moment for me. So
yeah, there's a lot of value back there. Obviously, with the likes like Cancelo not performing at the minute, it is all them Arsenal and Spurs, and obviously now Chelsea defenders are coming right into the mix. What do you reckon, James?
Yeah, I mean, like Fergie said, there's no one showing any stellar form at the moment. Certainly not the sides that we would expect to see that from. I think we might see a few less clean sheets this year, so I think I can see where Andy's coming from. I think the league's getting stronger and stronger.
I agree with that.
There aren't going to, the bottom. We've always known the bottom can beat the top. That's why the Premier League is so successful and fantastic. I think it's even harder this year. There's so much investment going into these Premier League sides. I mean, look at Nottingham Forest. They've bought 17 players or something and spent 150 million or something crazy.
Yeah.
And that some of these players are decent. So yeah, I think there might be a few less clean sheets this year. And
do you think it stems from a little bit of instability so far? Like obviously City with the injuries, they started the season with Ake, now John Stones is in there, they've no Laporte. Once Laporte and Diaz are back, you'd expect them to be a little bit stronger. You'd probably say the same with Liverpool, obviously having Gomez at the back rather than Matip or Canate's injury. And then Chelsea obviously have thrown together a bit of a defence after quite obviously Rudiger leaving and stuff, with Koulibaly coming in, Cucurella being signed. So I think once they start to settle, obviously once Chelsea get Fofana in at centre half alongside Silva and probably Koulibaly, and then obviously you see Diaz and Laporte at City, Matip and Van Dijk back at Liverpool. Do you think the percentage of clean sheets might then start to rise, and then the block might become more attractive, shall we say?
Yeah, I definitely think that you've made a good point there, Tony. And yeah, I think that could easily happen. I mean, Chelsea have bought well, haven't they? It would appear if Fofana goes there, they've got some. People are saying that Koulibaly is actually an upgrade on Rudiger, as long as he don't keep getting sent off, of course. But
help if he's on the pitch.
Cucurella just looks like a classy player when I watch him. I really like watching him. I mean, yeah, Chilwell can't even get in the side. I don't know what Chilwell's done to deserve that, but clearly Tuchel doesn't fancy him or whatever. He's getting hardly any minutes. But yeah, anyway, digress slightly. But I think you've made a good point there, Tony.
Yeah, but one to keep an eye on it.
I think as well, like a lot of the mid-table teams have actually, I think they've got some really good players now, and I've enjoyed watching every Premier League. Well, not every, the vast majority of Premier League matches this year, because if you think of like Spurs, Spurs and Wolves the other week, Spurs won 1-0, but Wolves are all over them. Like Mitrovic against Arsenal on the weekends, that header off the corner. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that when he's just you've got Tony at Brentford, like Palace have massively improved, Brighton looks superb. Like you've got mid-table teams now who are capable of beating anyone, and I'm not well, Leeds have started really well. I'm not sure we've seen that for quite a while. I agree with what you said, James. I think the standard of the Premier League is massively improving, and all the investment going in to these players improving, which means you're getting these players who are now capable of scoring 10, 12, 15 goals this season and could even be relegated.
Yeah.
but I think that means, as we've seen so far, I do agree. I think that means less clean sheets. So I do think in a couple of my teams next month, I think a move to even like 3-4-3, with a cheaper back three potentially, or four with Trent. I'd maybe mad going for the three. I'll definitely do it one or two teams though. Fofana, Session, and Cucurella for three at the back, and then go Diaz, Sterling, whatever else, and then have Salah, Kane, Haaland. You can do it, and if there's loads of goals, which we do expect, because the Premier League is only getting stronger, so they'll only score more goals in the Champions League. It could be really good. So yeah, I think it's changing, which is great for the Premier League, isn't it?
Definitely. Just makes it harder for us.
It does.
Right, Oz has been on for a few questions here. He's putting Nketiah in for Jesus to upgrade non-European players too risky in a team in a cash league. Chelsea being a great tournament side. Is Mendy worth putting in for Martinez? He's 3.8 million at the moment. Are we bothered without having goalkeepers playing in Europe at this stage? I think we've touched on that. And for Fafana, first immediate transfer, question mark. Go to the Nketiah one. What do you reckon, James?
Yeah, I'm not sure I would do that myself. The forward slots are so valuable that you don't really want to be wasting them. Because yes, Nketiah might play in the Europa League, but as we've seen so far, Jesus will be the number one in the league. So it doesn't kind of make sense. The only argument for it is that you might be facing weaker opposition, and therefore you might be scoring a hatful. I'm not the sort of player that takes that sort of risk. I'm quite risk averse. I wouldn't personally do that move. I don't know what you think, Fergie.
No, but I do agree with what Tony mentioned earlier. I'm kind of waiting for maybe a week or two and see how Arsenal, Man United, and West Ham, what kind of teams they field, because you'd expect they'd be fairly consistent. So, but I wouldn't be doing it in the first week. Definitely not.
No, that's a 3 no's there for the Nketiah punt, obviously, because he won't be getting the game time in the Premier League. So, I reckon Chelsea, Mendy. Is he 3.8 now, and he's going to be dropping? Is he? Where are we?
Possibly.
Yeah, they conceded on the weekend, didn't they, against Leicester?
Yeah. So, where is he? 3.8 now. Yeah, so probably another drop. So probably 3.7, 3.6. Do you reckon that? You say you could add him to your Chelsea block with Cucurella and Fofana.
I think it's a really good option. I mean, looking at their fixtures now, so they've got, starting next week in the league, they got West Ham, Fulham. Okay, they got Liverpool, Palace, Wolves, Villa, Brentford. That was in the middle of October, and in all that time, they've got 4 Champions League games in there as well. So, I think you would expect Chelsea to turn a bit of a corner defensively. This for me is what fantasy is all about. It's seeing those segues, because if you don't go for it, you're only chasing everyone else all the time. Yeah. So I think when you see an opportunity like this, you can get Mendy, Fafana, and Cucurella for what? Not like 10 million. Crazy. 3 premium, what should be premium defenders and goalkeepers there. I think it's worth the risk. I really do. Especially for what it can do for the rest of your team. Personally, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But they haven't looked great so far, but they will have a very, very good back five.
Yeah,
that's Fafana's an excellent defender as well. Let's not forget. He's not just in because his price; he's an excellent defender.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think it's worth it. I really do. I'm tempted. I'll probably go Ramsdale to either Reece or Mendy. I mean, if Mendy's cheaper, probably go for Mendy. I don't know.
Yeah, James.
It's something that move is something I've been thinking about for a few of my sides. I think last year we got Edison dropped until we found a point where we could jump on.
Yeah.
This could be the best time to jump on to Mendy. Of course, he's still got another game to play, so he might not drop.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So we're assuming he's going to drop based on the weekend scores, but that's
true.
not taking into account their game against Southampton. If he's 3.8 or lower, I would say jump on, because I doubt he'll be that for much longer. He's only going to head one way, I think, and that will be upwards. So it's a good move, I think. Get on him.
I think this leads into Aman's question next. With the likes of Diaz, Sterling scoring heavily this weekend, should we move our funds to midfield and have a cheaper defence? Obviously, you just touched on, Fergie, how cheap of a defence you can have from a Champions League side, which obviously would open the door to having Diaz, Sterling, and the likes and the big hitters up front as well, wouldn't it?
I think that's the strategy I'm going to be taking in September. Like I say, I may not just go all out, right? Like I know I'm saying you can do this. I may not go for all of them, but I'll definitely bring in one or two as a minimum. May even look at it, and if I can afford, as I say, if you can afford Diaz of midfield of Diaz, Sterling, and Kulusevski, as well as Salah, Haaland, Kane up front, you got all.
Yeah.
That's probably I'm just off the top of my head. That's probably the best attack you can probably have, I would say.
Yeah.
And then do what you will with the rest, but that seems pretty affordable. I would say. I don't know if you guys think any differently, but
no, I agree.
De Bruyne is obviously, he would obviously be in there, but he's very expensive. Yeah. But I mean, you could even afford him potentially. If you went Sessegnon for Fana and Cucurella, you could maybe even afford De Bruyne as well. I don't know. I haven't dealt the maths, but
yeah, especially if you've already built a little bit of budget as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. James?
I think the way that the question's been phrased, it sort of almost feels a bit reactionary, just because they've scored this week. And you've got to be careful to not let one result sort of sway your entire outlook. But I think I know what Aman's getting at, and I mean, it might be time to with the cheaper options in defence. Yes, probably is time to to move a few more funds to those around 5-ish million midfielders.
Yeah, performed this week. So far, obviously, there's another game to go. Right, Tomo, thoughts on Lloris for Champions League games? Stick with players like Gross, Harrison, Rodrigo, or switch to European participants? And how's your best performing teams doing? So obviously, we've covered Lloris. Spurs are probably the best Champions League group out of the lot. So, and for his price, he's a bloody good option. Obviously, Gross, Harrison, Rodrigo, I think they've got to go this month. You need to be maximising fixtures. So if you can afford to get those out of your team and upgrade your enablers to a European player, that's definitely the route to go. Best performing, go on.
I was just going to say, I'd say a Champions League midfielder, not just European, because like you say, they may be rotation. So I'd leave it leave that a week, because we're not sure what they're going to do we?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, with Champions League games, your players are going to be more nailed. Yeah. They have to play the better sides. Best performing team. Where are we? Where's my notes here? I'm currently on 227 with my best performing team. That's got a team value of 53.9 million with 2 transfers left, which is pretty decent. I've not had to move too many around, because obviously if they're scoring well, you naturally get in the value.
227, Tony.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's good.
I don't know how many K that is. I don't.
It's about 30. It's about 25K. I think.
25K.
Because mine's 223.
I got confused there about I thought you were saying you were 227th in the world. Overall.
Oh no!
I didn't realise you were talking from, because that was well, I presume he was just talking about rank, really. But sorry, completely.
No, sorry, mate. I get excited then. No, 227 points. I've got most of my teams are still all right. A bit mediocre, really. Like 7 more teams on 173 plus, but so there's a lot of options there. Like I say, like it's good to have 10 teams. I could try a couple of Chelsea blocks in there and a couple of other things. Leave an Arsenal block running just to see, because you just don't know whether they're going to pick up another few clean sheets and their prices are going to rise. Obviously, with your 10 teams, you just need to try a bit in each one of them and then go from there. So it's still so early. Still so early. I've not even looked at rank. That's why I just don't know, because 227, you just don't know. It's so early. Whereabouts are you, James?
I've got 2 teams on 191, which is probably the worst start I've ever had. But I'm not going to get stressed over it. It's so early. It's still early. Still plenty of time to rise up the ranks.
Definitely.
Yeah, not the greatest start, but there you go.
Fergie?
Yeah, I'm on 223, and it's about 31k. But I was looking actually at the leader, the overall leader is on 298. So they're only like 70 points off the top of the whole game. It's like, you just think if you'd have gone for X instead of Y or whatever else, you'd be. Yeah. So it's mega early. And like I say, this is like in the first month or two, I think as long as you have a half, as long as it's not a disaster start, I don't think it really matters, because you know that the vast majority of the teams ahead of us are not strategizing like we are. They don't look into it, analyze the fixtures. They'll be bringing in players who braced on the weekend, who haven't got Europe and and whatever else. So it's kind of a long game, isn't it? And I think if we can get to the World Cup with budget, I think then that our experience and the time we put into playing the game will really, really help in the second half. Because if you think, if we go into the World Cup with like, I don't know, a budget of 50 million or less, and like, I don't know, Haaland's 8 million and Kane's 8 million and whatever it is, 7, like, how the hell are you going to build a team? Like, it's just be, you'll still have an Almiron and Mbuemo and like, all the, like, so I think focusing on the budget, obviously getting in the best players you can afford, wherever else. But players like Fofana, for example, a lot of casual managers may not even realise about him. Maybe, I don't know, because look at the ownership for him and for Cucurella, and they're still incredibly low. And Cucurella's been in everyone's face for like at least a fortnight, or more now. Yeah. So I think this is where we'll make the gains.
Yeah, definitely. Right, DT Patrick is on again. Do any of you have any superstitions used to influence games that you have your players in? E.g., if I'm out and about, I'll check the latest scores and then switch my phone off for 15 minutes, then switch it back on and recheck in the deluded belief that somehow this will help. I don't have any superstitions, but do you guys have any? Any witchcraft that you pull?
I've got like one thing I do sometimes, not all the time. I don't do it as much anymore, but I used to. Obviously, I switched off all notifications on my phone. The only notifications I have on are BBC Sport goal alerts. And when I can see at the corner of my eye that there's like this yellow and black bar, so I see there's been a goal, what I'll do, and I'm doing this on camera, so obviously the listeners can't see it, but I do this thing where I like squint my eyes. So like, you squint so they're almost closed, and then you slowly open them so you can see through your eyelashes, but you can't really see what it is. And then I open my eyes like ridiculously slowly. It's called the squeeze. That's what me and my friends do. We do the squeeze. So we basically unblur our vision incredibly slowly. So the first thing you can see then is like the length of the goal scorer's name. So if you've got like, if you've got Salah and it's a really short name, you're like, oh, it's a short name, come on. And then you like squint a bit more and you can see it's like 5 letters. And so I do that sometimes. And then obviously when it's not who you think, you're like, bastard. But then when it is who you think it is, after you've completely unsquinted, it's a good feeling. So,
yeah. James?
The only thing I can think of is occasionally, say I've captained somebody in FPL or I really need a particular player to do something, then I might put a message on one of my football WhatsApp groups with some expletives in there saying how crap that player's playing. In the vain hope that somehow that
reverse
makes it
jinx.
different,
Yeah.
to sort of jinx it back like the other way, sort of thing. But I can't think of anything else.
Bloody hell, the lengths we go to. Right, NC has been on being realistic, not being able to have every best player in every position within a reasonable budget. What would you say is the ideal 11 to have for the next couple of months? James. I'm going to reread that one.
I think a reasonable 11 would be Mendy, Trent, Fofana, Cucurella, Sessegnon, KDB, Diaz, Elliott, Kane, Haaland, Salah.
Yeah.
I think with those cheaper defenders, I think you can I haven't added it up, but I think you can just about do that. And I think that's realistic to have that. If you had a wild card now, I think that's probably the way you go.
Yeah. Yeah, Fergie.
Yeah, I had about 9 the same, I think. I think instead of KDB, Diaz, and Elliott, I would probably go Sterling, Diaz, and assuming you can't afford KDB, I'd maybe go for Kulusevski instead. So it's still, but everything else, the 3 forwards, the 4 at the back, and either Lloris or Mendy. I'm not sure I'd go Mendy. I was thinking about this. If I did go for Fofana and Cucurella, I probably wouldn't go Mendy. I'd probably hedge a little bit and go for Lloris. So I'm not like all in on Chelsea almost. But yeah, I think structure wise, it's bang on. It's probably what I would do.
Kane, Salah, Haaland, De Bruyne, Trent, and a sprinkling of your cheaper defenders with an Odegaard in there.
Odegaard cheap, isn't he?
Yeah, 3.1.
He'd be going up though. He'd be going up mine, wouldn't he?
Yeah, probably another 3 this week, I would guess. 3.4. Well, obviously depending on midweek games, might get a red card. You don't know, but yeah, so many options. But your big hitters now, obviously, Trent, De Bruyne, the front 3. I think for next months, and then a sprinkling of those cheaper defenders will probably set you right for the next couple of months.
If Dalot plays in Europa at 2 million, I've got to be fair. I've been quite impressed with him. He's very attacking, and obviously United have hopefully for them, tightened up now at the back, so he could be another option, especially if he plays in Europa.
Yeah, definitely. That's one to keep an eye on. It obviously Wan-Bissaka's there. Whether they do rotate them, we don't know until that first round of games. But yeah, have United.
Even if he comes on though, like I can't see Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah,
so has Wan-Bissaka played like I haven't watched all United games, but has he been playing any minutes at all?
I think he came on against Liverpool, didn't he? I'm sure I heard his name on radio when I'm on the way back from work.
I'm just wondering, is he likely to make 90 minutes? Even if Dalot comes on for 5 minutes at the end,
true.
Gets a clean sheet, happy days.
Yeah, definitely. Play the Sessegnon way.
Similar to Sessegnon, exactly, yeah.
Very similar question from Lee Hooper next. Based on what we've seen so far, what we expect, what would your best no-budget 11 be? Here's his: Edison, Cancelo, Trent, James, Diaz, KDB, Foden, Sterling, Haaland, Kane, Salah. I think you go far wrong. You won't go far wrong with that team.
No.
I think many of us would pick pretty much the same. All the big hitters are in there. Any notable absentees there, James?
No, I would pick nearly an identical side to that, I think. Yeah.
Maybe Van Dijk. I do like Van Dijk.
Yeah.
I think I'd choose more Robertson at the moment just because he's getting more minutes and he's guaranteed to play every game, isn't he?
Yeah. His first name on sheet, isn't he?
5.3 as well. He's cheap at the moment. But again, he'd be going up. So he'd be 5.6 on Friday.
Yeah. Another thing with Fofana going in is surely then they'll push James back to right wing back.
Yeah.
With another centre half coming in. That might boost his point scoring early on in the season. DT Patrick again. He's back again. In your opinions, which players' current prices are currently too good to be true? Are the Fafanas, Cucurella's, and Odegaards of this world players we can't afford not to jump onto? And is there any other obvious bargain-tastic buys spring to mind? James.
Well, I think he's picked out all the three very good bargains there. I think Saliba at 3.1 still really good value.
Yeah.
But caveated with obviously, will he play in Europe? Europe, we don't know. Jesus is still fairly priced at 5.6, even though he's going up and up and up. That was the two I wrote down.
Yeah. Dallow at 2. Say, potentially to keep an eye on. Mentioned Robertson is currently 4.8, which again is probably the lowest he'll be all season. I guess. Elliott at 2 million is probably underpriced. You'd say, I know you mentioned him, James, a bit of an enabler to get in KDB. I still think that's fair. He seems to be starting every game at the moment, doesn't he?
Sorry, I missed that, Fergie. Who was that?
Elliott.
Elliott seems to be starting every game.
Yeah. I mean, with the midfield injuries we've got, he's virtually a shoe-in. I think he had a little niggle, came off after 45 minutes, but I think he's been given the all clear. So yeah, he's going to get plenty of minutes. Although we are apparently now in for another midfielder. Well, whether that happens or not, I don't know. So yeah.
You're looking like it was going to be Tielemans at one point, but then he started for Leicester, did he, at the weekend?
He did. We've already got enough injury-prone midfielders. We don't need another one. We'll take Frankie de Jong if he's available.
That'd upset the United fans, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned three are probably the best there, Patrick. Fafana, Cucurella, Odegaard. Obviously, Sessegnon's still cheap at 2.3 million. I don't know if you watched the Spurs game at the weekend. Obviously, how attack-minded he was when he come on. He was springing up at left wing, up on left wing. He's a good buy at 2.3 million. Yeah, I think Dalot could be a good shout from Fergie if he does get them minutes in Europe, and if United can buck up their ideas a little bit.
He's really attacking, isn't he? He's very attacking. He gets shots off and everything.
Yeah.
Good.
I think there was a bit of excitement around him when they did sign him the other year. Just need United to improve and not just turn up for the Liverpool game.
This is it.
Right, Keith Ledger had a Brighton block from the start, saved 3 transfers to move them on to players with European matches. Would you do this, but bear in mind rotation, or stick with the Brighton block defence? I must say, Keith, it's a great shout at the start of the season. Brighton, I think, conceded 1 goal. Brilliant. So you must be doing pretty well that side, because you'll have plenty of money to spend elsewhere. Would you move it on or just let it roll, Fergie?
I see you got to move it on. It's just the way I play. As sad as it is, as much as it's an amazing move, and it's obviously got him into a really, really strong position. I just take the money and run. You've probably gained goodness knows how much in value, maybe nearly $1 million each player in value off each player.
Yeah,
take that, get it on Fafana and Co, and laughing in a really good position. I would guess that'd be my advice. I don't know if you guys think any differently.
Do you reckon, James?
No, I think you've nailed that. I would, if you've got those 3 transfers saved. I suppose if Sanchez was one of the 3, and you wanted to keep one, he's doing well, and he's the keeper's probably the least. If you had other moves that you wanted to make instead of just getting rid of 3, then that might be something to consider. But no, if they're all earmarked to move those Brighton players on, well done for thinking of that for a start. Because I don't think I went with any Brighton blocks. Don't know about you guys, but no,
I didn't have a Brighton block. Yeah, I completely agree. Take the money and run is probably a fair way to assess it. just obviously they put you in a great position to be able to spring from there. If you could get like a Robbo in and a couple of Chelsea defenders, then you're laughing, aren't you?
You are laughing.
It's a great upgrade. Yeah.
I don't know if it's worth saying, but I would also say that, especially on Fofana, I just wait for the lineups before you stick him in, because he may not start on Saturday, in which case you may be better off having a Brighton player for that week. So I would, I would, whenever we talk about kind of transfer stuff, unless you're having to do it on the Thursday evening, I would always wait for lineups personally.
Yeah, definitely.
If you can, obviously.
Yeah. All right. AFC for life. With Arsenal and United unlikely to play full teams in Europe, would you be trying to fill your team with as many Champions League players as possible? A lot of people have put in the likes of Sancho and Jesus with the idea they would play in Europe, but that is unlikely in the early stages. I think we've covered that quite a lot through the pod. The Champions League, obviously first and foremost, and then I'd have a watch at the lineups for that first week. So the way I'm going to play it is I won't be taking too many like Arsenal players out just until I see how they're going to attack those Europa League games. He might go strong, we don't know, and then after that, assess it then. But yeah, Champions League players, if you're looking to make moves, they're the ones to go for because we know they're more or less nailed. You guys agree with that?
Yep.
Completely agree?
Yep, completely agree.
Right, so on to the Dream Team Tonic Cash League, top 10. I'll have a run through of this one. In 10th, Simon Davis. In 9th, Lee Watson. In 7th, joint 7th, Lee Hooper and Arwin Vobe. In 6th, Stephen Beswick. In 5th, Dan Bartlam. Joint 3rd, David Dunkley and Leo Reid. And 2nd, Jonathan Perrault. And 1st, Jonathan Perrault. Great start for you lads on that top 10 list. Hopefully you can keep it up. You'll be up there at the end of the season, collecting some cash prizes. Just remember Gameweek 5, which is starting next weekend, will be the £50 prize for the top point scorer for that weekend. Just so you know. James, the DT Tonic Patreon League. Let's give that a read out, mate.
Okay, in joint 9th, we've got Stephen Broughton and Connor Story. In 8th, Jordan Jackson. 7th, Rick Lawrence. 6th, Martin Bratley. 5th, Paul Young. 4th, Dan Morton. 3rd, Wayne Foster Crouch. 2nd, Jake Bevan. Top of the shop, Lee Utting.
Happy days. Not one of our names in sight on either table. Hopefully that will change over the coming weeks. Again, thanks to all the Patreons for supporting us. We appreciate it. If you're listening on YouTube, drop us a like, hit that subscribe button. If you're interested in joining Patreon, dreamteamtonic.com patreon.com/dreamteamtonic. Get yourselves involved in a great Discord community and a few extras on there. Cheers for joining us again, Fergie. It's good to have you on once a month and good to chat to you and pick your brains.
Yep, thank you, gents. Really enjoyed as usual, and it's helped me get myself a bit clearer for attacking the new month. And better luck to everyone listening. Hope you have a good month.
Cheers, Fergie.
And cheers, James. Next week, we should have a full quarter of Tonic lads, shouldn't we? Ben should be back from his jaunt over to the Canary Islands, so it should be back business as normal.
Yep.
So we'll see you next week. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Tony. Cheers, Fergie.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.